Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Fatima Latipo, and I'm Associate Vice President for Government and Community Relations here at Spelman College. And we are excited today to have such an engaging audience here. Are we engaging? At Spelman, we believe in fostering meaningful conversation about the world around us. And today's event is a perfect example of that. The Political Breakfast podcast has built a reputation for insightful, thought-provoking discussions on policy, politics, and civic engagement. This event is especially important because it highlights the importance of civility in public and political discourse. In a time when debates can become very divisive, we are here to demonstrate that respectful conversation, even when we disagree, is essential for progress. So today, we will not only engage in dialogue, but we will also see civility in action through lively debate, differing perspectives, and meaningful discussion. I'm thrilled, really, to introduce the esteemed host of the podcast, Lisa Rayam, a veteran journalist with years of experience in delivering impactful news and thought-provoking discussion as a host of Political Breakfast. Tharon Johnson, a seasoned Democratic strategist and political commentator, known for his deep insight into policy and electoral dynamics, and Brian Robinson, a respected Republican strategist and media contributor offering a sharp and informed perspective on today's political landscape. Each of these individuals bring deep expertise and a unique perspective to political discussions. They challenge each other, they learn from each other, and most importantly, they model how to engage in thoughtful, respectful, and political debate. Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for such a warm welcome. We are so excited to be here and to walk in the room and just feel the enthusiasm here. And in that intro, we heard one key word, civility. A lot of people ask me, do these two guys get along? And they do, they do. They have great opinions that differ, very important opinions that we need to hear, but yes, they get along. And you'll see that today, and you'll hear that today as well. Political Breakfast is so important to Atlanta and even the nation, since we are a national podcast, because we have the pulse of what's going on in the nation and here in Georgia. And we were just chatting here today, and guys, what were we talking about? Some of the important issues. We talked about what? DEI and some of the things that are percolating right now in the nation. And I don't know, what do you think is good to jump off with right now with our college students? Because education affects them, DEI affects them, Target shopping affects you all, I know.
That's right.
You know, the list goes on and on, right, Brian?
Yeah, I didn't know about the Target thing. I have some liberal neighbors who were taking my daughter they were all going to buy clothes, and they texted us to say, we're not going to Target anymore because of DEI stuff. And we were like, please don't discuss this with my 8-year-old. This is not what I want to come home to talk about. Right. But the DEI issue is one that has really exploded onto the national scene as a backlash to it exploding on the national scene, kind of in the post-COVID George Floyd era of 2020, 2021. And I think that what you're seeing is how much pent-up frustration there was with center-right America with how fast stuff had moved. And I know I'm offering a different perspective here at an HBCU than what you might get elsewhere, but I can tell you in my circles, people who look like me and in my age bracket and all that, I saw so many folks in the last few years say things I had not heard before, like, I'm leaving my corporation because they're not going to promote a white guy. I'm concerned my kid can't go to my alma mater because they're not accepting so many white kids. And it was in that focus group of talking to folks that I began to see the early wave of the backlash really forming. And these aren't people who are like right-wing nuts. These are just normal people who don't live and breathe politics every day, but they were internalizing these messages. And I know there's another perspective on it as well. There's a big historical perspective on how we got here. But what you're seeing on happening in the from the White House on down throughout all these institutions is not controversial on the right. It is something that is being celebrated and has a lot of popular support amongst Republican voters.
You all are aware of the DEI policies that have been pushed back. Tharon, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that in terms of where they are and where you see the nation going with DEI and how they should resonate and how it's resonating with our young people?
Well, first of all, it's so good to be back at the Atlanta University Center. Brian, is this your first time at Spelman, or?
It's my first time at Spelman, but
No, I want to welcome, because black people, we're welcoming. Like, I want to make sure you feel safe. Let's welcome our brother to this campus.
I did. You may not know, but there is actually a Morehouse College Republican Party, College Republicans of Morehouse, and I had gone to speak to them before, and I was really. And one of those guys, this was 10 years ago. One of those guys went on to. It's still in Republican politics today, so it was a worthwhile visit. Maybe I'll do that today. Maybe one of y'all will become a lifelong Republican staffer or candidate. I'm sure that's my goal.
But
you'll rocket to the top.
So Brian and I, we travel around the state. I've been to predominantly white institutions with him, but I just want to thank Fatima Ladipo and Ruth Riley and everyone. And shout out to your amazing interim president, Roz Brewer, who also know. And I'm a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University. And I serve on the board of trustees there as well. So shout out to any CAU folks. I know we have Morehouse Spelman, Morris Brown, ITC, everyone, Morehouse School of Medicine as well. And just really thank y'all so much for being here. No, Lisa, just jump right in. Listen, I think that the diversity, equity, and inclusion attacks have been going on for some time. Brian just told us that. It's been probably sort of bubbling up to the top in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we saw a little bit of it in the 2020 election. But one of the things I respect so much about B-Rob is that, and this is why this podcast is great, so please download it, it's this big QR code here, is that we try to take our listeners into kind of what people don't say publicly, but folks who we are friends with and our family members. And what you just heard from B-Rob is white folks for a long time have been thinking about, okay, why am I not migrating through these jobs? And so the perfect sort of way to blame it in the last 5 years is, oh, I'm not getting promoted because my company has decided to finally just put ink to paper and say, hey, we're going to celebrate diversity, we're going to celebrate inclusion, and we're going to celebrate equity. But what the Republicans have done, Lisa, is that they've weaponized it in a way to not only win a campaign in 2024, but it's put a lot of pressure on corporations to say, okay, am I doing the right thing if I don't celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion? And the truth of the matter is, last time I checked, and I'm in a room with Spelman scholars, a white woman is a what? Is a minority when you look at how they're classified in the business. And so I don't know if these were white women complaining about they weren't getting promoted because they weren't a quote unquote a minority in that aspect. This is very disappointing. The thing that I would say that also that I'm very worried about Spelman students is that a lot of the decisions that are being made right now are going to impact your lives. And I remember being over at CAU, going to Steagles, and I was on Brawley, going to the games, and I would come to Spelman on Fridays for the Market Fridays, and I was a little shy back then, Lisa. I didn't really roll up on, my confidence wasn't really where it is now. But the thing is that you guys are competing with a global workforce. Like, your competitors are not just folks at Georgia Tech or at Harvard. I mean, it's a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old woman that's in India, that's studying AI, that's looking at ways to utilize technology. You're also competing with smart people over in Africa and in Europe and these different continents. So I just think that Spelman College, you don't feel it as much because there's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion here. But when you get outside of these great, these gates, and this campus is amazing. Y'all spend a lot of money over here. So shout out to y'all's alumni and all the endowments that you all are getting, is that you're going to enter a workforce right now. And Brian and I are just telling you that just because you are a black woman does not give you any sort of up or give you any advantage on your counterpart, even though you're probably smarter, more qualified, have more education than them. There is a sector of this country that believes that folks, because they are black or brown, are only being promoted in a sort of non-merit-based status. And I think I have to really make it plain to you all that when you leave these gates in this campus, you're now going to be very, very mindful. Okay, do I really want to go work for this company? You know, I think of a company like Southern Company, right, who has a black man who is one of, I think, let's say, a dozen black Fortune 500 CEOs in the country. His name is Chris Womack. He's right down the street. I am so proud of Southern Company, and Brian and I both do work with the cousin sort of parent company, Georgia Power, is that they refuse to cut their DEI programs. And the reason we're not going to cut it is because we were doing it before it was a weaponized, sexy thing for the Republicans. And so I think that you guys have got to hold these corporations accountable, but also understand that don't allow yourself to be pigeonholed to say, oh, I'm only applying or I'm getting these jobs because I'm a black woman, I'm a brown woman. No, you're competing because you've done the work. You went to high school, you graduated from college, you've made good grades, you've done internships, and you have got to be able to compete. But I think that it's going to flip, Lisa. I think we just need one Republican, and it may not be B-Rob, but it's going to be somebody who's going to really say to the Trump administration, okay, guys, enough is enough. You used it to try to win. You demonized this black woman. You criticized her. You even questioned whether or not she was black. And you got into the White House. So now, okay, how do we bring the country together? How do we govern? But we're going to have to endure this a little longer because it is something that this administration is putting a lot of pressure on corporations to eliminate.
You know, one thing I want to say, excellent points, thank you. And I have thought this since I was 22. My first job out of college, I went to the University of Georgia. My first job was at the AJC as a copy editor, just down the road here on Marietta Street. And we had a lot of, we had some college kids who were, I don't know, it was like some like copy job, right? Like they would run papers around and stuff. They had a lot of Morehouse and Spelman kids. And so I've known for a long time how elite Spelman and Morehouse students are.
And Clark, don't forget Clark.
Oh, I'm so sorry, yeah.
There's competition there. But no, I know what you mean.
Now, this is an elite place, and you got here on merit. Y'all are the cream of the crop. Y'all will be in high demand in corporate America wherever you want to go next. When we're talking about taking it away from we're going to go by identity politics. We want you because you are black, or we want you because you are brown or white. What Republicans are going to say in their messaging is, we want you because you are excellent. We want you because you are the best. And look, you guys aren't on the margins. Y'all are students at Spelman. You're elite, right? And that's really what this is about being the hardest working, being the brightest. And that's what this institution produces. You're going to do fine in that marketplace. You know, I think part of what I want to see is there's some nuance here. Because I do business in Atlanta, Tharon does business in Atlanta, and I have business come through my door where I sometimes go to Tharon or to another black business owner kind of in our space. Maybe I have a woman that I work with too, that Tharon works with too. Yeah. Sometimes I need a woman. But in Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta, you need to have black people on your staff because you need it for business, right? Because you were dealing often with black governments, black audiences, black consumer bases. It's just super important. It is how you do business in Atlanta. It is a business calculation to have diversity in your business. It's a market-driven decision. And I'm okay with market-driven decisions, right? What I'm not okay with is, oh, this room's got to be a third this and a third this and a third that. That's arbitrary, and I think people feel that way. And one thing I think the left in this country has failed on in this debate is they want to define us by groups. That your group is your identity. And people on the right reject that. Your identity is your identity. And you're more than just your race or ethnicity. You are all the accomplishments that you've achieved to get here, and you are all of the things you're going to achieve moving forward. And that's a lot more than the color of your skin.
Yeah, and that's the foundation here at Spelman in which you're taught. I was able to roam the room and talk to a lot of you before we started. And a lot of you are not from Georgia. You're from all over the nation. And you don't pay a whole lot of attention to local politics, but you do pay attention to national politics. And you feel the malaise and what's going on in Washington. So I think it's best to jump right into some of your questions because you have some pretty important ones. So we're going to start with Lauren. What's on your mind today? And go ahead, launch into it.
Okay, thank y'all so much for such a powerful conversation. My question is, in today's political climate, what advice do you all have for individuals that seek to utilize the intersection between the arts and activism?
Yeah, so it's a great question. In the spirit of true civility, I have to respond to what Brian said. But I waited until Lisa Rayam, who knows me, she shifted it because she knew I wanted to say something. So let me weave in an answer to your question and also respond to him. B-Rob, I respect you. I know your heart, but the truth of the matter is I'm in a lot of white rooms.
You are,
absolutely. And the reason I'm in those white rooms, you all, is because I refuse to be pigeonholed. I refuse at the state capitol to think that a white Republican male or a white Republican woman won't meet with me because I'm black. And he knows this, and Lisa knows this. I spend an enormous amount of time cultivating those relationships. So I don't want you guys to get it twisted. This is 2025. There are still people who will not promote you, won't meet with you, and will not respect you because of the color of your skin. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you all and not tell you that racism still does not exist in this country. However, I want you to know that message because when some of you are not going to go work for corporate, a lot of you are going to be entrepreneurs, right? I'm an entrepreneur. Brian's an entrepreneur. So you will now have to work even harder because now you have so much expectations for you to be greater when you get those opportunities. And so what Brian was basically saying is, yeah, we are Atlanta. This is a black city. Our leadership may be black, but there's still an effort from them to work with all races. We are a welcoming city. But we have a lot of white business community people here who still put pressure on black politicians to do that. Now let me answer your question. I actually think the fact that you all are taking time out of your evening to come hear us talk is a form of activism, right? What you do with this information and how you disseminate it amongst your peers is activism. I work for Congressman John Lewis, the face, the person who embodied the nonviolent movement better than anyone. His spirit is in me right now because one of the things that he talked about before he passed was I'm always wondering how can I get more black, young, brown people together. And at a time, guys, when we have to take up the Black Lives Matter street, anybody here from DC, DMV area, right? I mean, Mayor Bowser is doing a phenomenal job. But she's having to take up this street that was legally done, named because of all the pressure from the federal government that we have now all of a sudden moved on from that. And you guys see the stuff on the internet. We still have people who are not being arrested the right way, who are being brutally beaten to death in jail by sometimes white officers, sometimes black officers. So I think that for you all is how do you balance, I'm here to get education. My parents, sometimes a single parent, single dad, single mom, has sent me here to get education versus you live in a city that's so great. Everybody want to be in the A because ain't no other place like the A. But how do you spend time making sure that you make your main thing the main thing, which is your education, but identify some organizations that you're passionate about? One of the things that I did is that when I was at Clark Atlanta University, I thought it was absolutely insane that we did not have a Young Democrats chapter on the campus. So that's when I met Stacey Evans. At that time, she was Stacey Godfrey, who was a legislator, Scott Butler, all these Democrats. And I remember going to the Young Democrats of Georgia convention and said, why don't we have a AUC Young Democrats chapter? And so it took me 2 years to get it done, but I did that. And so that activism was recognized by Mayor Bill Campbell at the time. He said, hey, what are you doing this summer? And back in the day before Georgia State became Georgia State, it really was a place that you would go in the summers to have a quick little mini-semester class and pay a low money for it. And you could stay in Atlanta to do it and kind of go. But I said, no, I'm going to stay here and go to summer school. So he gave me my first job because I spoke up, I saw an issue, and I got it done. And then the last piece of advice I would give to you all, and I'm proud of y'all. I wasn't going to go here, but this is interesting. I mean, y'all have seen a conversation about why the Slutty Vegan restaurant closed on Spelman's campus. Now, headline, I'm like, damn, why they trying to run Pinky out of here, right? My CAU sister.
Yeah.
But I listened to the podcast and I read the comments. Right? And then I go to that person's page to see how crazy they are. I'm like, but it was a Spelman-like, balanced, fact-driven reason. Like, hey, we want good service too, right? We, just because you hear it. And so I think that those type of activism sort of moments that you guys will stand up and speak up when you don't see something right, it's just a few examples I wanted to provide.
And I didn't really understand the intersection of the arts part. Was there something specific you were getting at there?
Spoken word, paintings, different things of that nature.
Oh, okay. Well, I can answer them real quick. I got this, Brian.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Spoken word.
Got
That's a black thing.
So you guys need to look this, and God, I'm going to say a Morehouse brother, but I'm going to go into your question. A guy named Derek Forger. I'm trying to get another painting for him, so I'm giving him some free publicity because it's hard to get his artwork right now. But the reason I bring up Derek is a Morehouse man. He graduated, and he also pledged the best fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha Incorporated, which I'm a member of as well. But Derek is in talks right now with your institution, possibly in Morehouse, to try to really do more with the arts. My wife and I, we just started collecting art probably like a few years ago. But it brings you together because it's, when I look at the painting, the one thing that Derek says is, how does it make you feel? And I'm thinking, how much is it going to cost? Because, is that. So I think that what you got to do with the art is it is an expression of behavior and activism. But also, I think the biggest thing facing you all right now as college students is that there's a Republican Party right now that's trying to eliminate your freedom of speech. Like, they don't want you guys to be able to express your First Amendment right. So I think through the arts and through whether it's paintings, sculptures, I've been really attracted to local artists in Atlanta, and we have a lot of them. We have great art galleries in East Point, Southwest Atlanta, like to go there and really talk politics, but to utilize artists, women and men who create art that is words of expression, and it's usually tied to something that's about advancement of the Black movement.
Thank you. I don't know much about art. I know that my team likes a lot of art with American flags and bald eagles. That seems to be that seems to be very prominent in the stuff I see from my team.
Morgan, what's your question?
Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan Richardson. I'm a first-year political science major on the pre-law track from Birmingham, Alabama. And a little earlier in our conversation, we were talking about DEI. And Brian, you actually said that in conversation about this, that Spelman students, we would be all right, essentially, in this type of conversation because we're a so-called elite and we're kind of on that same level. Well, we were actually just talking about that, about Spelman elitism, and it kind of brought the conversation or the question to me that, about Black elitism and its conversation in DEI. And it really made me think because I am from Alabama, small town Alabama, and in my white suburban neighborhood, my father, he's an attorney, and even in that small area, we're still excluded from the larger picture of the neighborhood conversation. And that really got me thinking about how does Black elitism, or what we see as Black elitism, or even what the wider world sees as Black elitism, play into the conversation about DEI. Because as you may know, you may not know, Black people as a community tend to stick together. We tend to kind of ride with each other. So Black elitism isn't necessarily seen as the most positive thing.
Yeah. I think excellence is a positive thing, and I think that's what you see demonstrated. I'm going to be very careful. Tharon gets under me because we speak to a lot of diverse audiences. I mean, politically diverse, racially diverse audiences. And Tharon always likes to say that Brian thinks he's an expert on Black voters. I do love to talk about Black voters, particularly because I'm in Georgia, and what Black voters think and how they feel about things are very pertinent to what happens here. Very important voice. Black women are the most important voice in Democratic primary politics. And so I pay a lot of close attention to what Black voters are saying in polling, because there's been a lot of really interesting trends. One is that forever, this is the civil rights movement, Black voters have voted as a monolith with Democrats, 90+%. And we're beginning to see that begin to break up a little bit. We saw Trump get historically high levels of Black votes in 2024. Nowhere near a majority. They're not massive numbers, but they're massive compared to what they used to be. We're seeing a change. And one thing that Tharon and I see, and this is just in polling data, this is just what we see when we go and do events like this. The Democrats who are mean to me and very intolerant of me and are white liberals.
Oh,
They,
wow.
They're very mean. And
Is that true?
it's true. No, it's true.
Wow.
Theron sees it all the time.
He
And-
wants me to feel
White
sorry that these
liberals.
white women be pushing back on him. And I do
And it's
defend
white
him.
men.
I defended him just
White
last
liberals.
week.
Yes.
A white male and a white woman. Now, I don't know if they were liberals.
Oh, they were liberals.
I don't
Yes.
know if they were, yeah.
Yes. One of them told me the best day of his life was when he unfollowed me on Twitter.
That's true.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this is what I deal with, and I don't deal with that from black audiences. They're much more civil, and part of what you're seeing is,
Follow
you know, when you look at the widespread data, what you see with black voters is they and Hispanic voters have become, they're still largely Democratic, Hispanics less so than black voters, but what you're seeing is that they're the most conservative, and by that I mean moderate voters within the coalition, as some of your white college-educated liberals have kind of gone off the deep end in recent years with some of this really extremist thought. And Tharon was talking about First Amendment rights. I do want to comment on that because part of the backlash you're seeing from conservatives today is that during COVID, during all that time, the social media companies were censoring conservative voices and conservative voices solely. And it was a bunch of liberals in California determining who could say what on social media. And so there is a massive backlash to that amongst conservatives in this country. And, you know, you see them at least suggesting that they're going to be, you know, staunch defenders of the First Amendment. I hope that they are. I hope that my side is staunch defenders of the First Amendment right for everybody, regardless of whether you agree with us or not. I will die on that hill, right? I believe in it. But I do believe, I hear you. I don't think that's a conversation for me to engage in as far as how black people view black elitism. But I believe in excellence. And I believe that the market sorts that out. And that's a good thing.
Well, real quick, I'll answer your question. The freedom of speech thing is real, Brian. As you know, there was a student protest bill right here in the state capitol. It didn't make it out, but it literally would have aimed to stop students and their ability to protest. We all saw these peaceful protests that sometimes became a little non-peaceful when we got, at Emory and University of Georgia. But I was so proud of the Morehouse men when we all thought it was just going to be this, Armageddon when the president came and spoke. And yeah, you did have some faculty and staff and people protest, but ultimately it was good. But to answer your question about black elitism, like, look, what I just did a few minutes ago is to insert Clark, right? But it was in a non-hatred kind of way, like, don't forget about us kind of thing. But when you walk 75 steps that way, we pride ourselves the way you guys do, like, hey, we're the best of the best.
Morris Brown is on the come up.
Yeah,
too.
Morris Brown's there. Yeah, they're back. But I think the big thing about elitism and being black, like, look, I experience it every day. Let me just let you into my life. I intentionally still go to a barbershop on Peter Street, right, off the hook. Why do I go? I don't have any hair, he's taking my little $50,
$50.
Yeah. Well, with the
Talk
tip.
about black elitism.
Well, it's with this Trump
I paid
inflation.
$8.99 last Friday.
Yeah,
you
Trump,
can tell.
And it's Trump. And Trump inflation, you all.
$8, $50.
Yeah, $8 versus $50. The black man got to play more, but that's a whole nother thing. So I go to the barbershop for two reasons. One, I'm not there to, it's easy. He got me in and out 17 minutes, right, if that. But I got to make sure that I never get too high. I never get on my soapbox. So when I come to these podcasts and I have these conversations, I'm hearing my brothers and sisters, because they do have two female barbers in there and the ladies who are hairstylists, because it gives me a pulse, right, of what's going on. So I sometimes, because of what I've been able to do, and my, I like to say I'm middle class. Brian's going to tell me, he's going to say I'm a millionaire. But I think I'm a working class Georgian.
That is hocus pocus.
I'm a working class, middle class Georgian. But even though, on paper, I can probably prove that I'm higher than I really am. But I always make sure I go back and talk to people who are not doing as well as me, who are black. And then you also got to surround yourself people who know you best, who knew you when you were in middle school, high school, because those folks are going to keep you grounded.
You have to show up. You have to continue showing up.
And then the last thing, look, just be true to who you are. It's nothing wrong with making money, you all. Let me just be real. But you got to make the money and you got to give back, right? And then in making that money, bring other black people along with you. Some of the things that I don't like is that when I know my brothers and sisters who make money off black people, and then you're gonna go spend it with all the white folks. Yeah. You know, if you don't own a black piece of, like somebody that has created a black piece of clothing, or if you don't, do something that is black owned, that's what I have a problem. And I think that, but it's okay for your father to be this attorney in that suburban white neighborhood, and to be able to still be able to raise you, and you're now at this elite college. But I think that we all have to make sure that while you can be elite and you can be wealthy, you just got to make sure you stay true to yourself and find opportunities to give back.
And still feel comfortable and be proud in your skin, for sure. We've talked about DEI and some other issues here. Just shout out some of the things that are on your mind in wake of what's happening in the nation today. What are some of the other things that are bothering you? Reproductive rights, another good one. Education cuts probably, and funding. Immigration, Title IX, Palestine. So global issues as well.
Congo?
The Congo.
Thank you.
Congo. Ethiopia.
Yeah. What's going on with Haiti? Yeah. I'm sorry, Brian. You ain't never see me this black.
Nairi, where are you? Yes. Nairi, what's on your mind?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Nairi Croa, a freshman majoring in political science on the pre-law track from Washington, D.C. And my question is for Mr. Robinson. Are there any political strategies currently being used by the current administration that you particularly disagree with?
You're going to get me in trouble. So I believe in free markets. I believe in America's role in the world, and that we have to, I've been a big supporter of our defense of Ukraine. And I believe in institutions, and I believe in stability and predictability in our economy. And I think that's great for Americans. And I'm a strong believer that education is the great equalizer that has made this nation what it is. So I do have some issues with some of it. I'm a free market person, so the tariffs are not my thing, right? I believe that tariffs are inflationary, because they are, and part of what lost the election for Kamala Harris was inflation. And it wasn't just partisan. In other parts of the world, if you're a left government or a right government, inflation affected everybody and you lost. This is in the last 2 or 3 years, incumbents lost because voters are mad about inflation. They're scared, they feel squeezed, they want change. And so Donald Trump benefited from that call for change. He ran on two things: immigration and stopping inflation / the economy, right? Those were the two issues. Somebody mentioned earlier immigration. Look, Americans, by a majority, not a massive majority, approve of what Donald Trump is doing for now, because it got out of control, and everybody can see it in their own neighborhoods. Like, this is out of control. And we saw, we've seen the tent cities in Chicago and in New York City. We've seen these Venezuelan gangs terrorizing communities. These are real things. And you can't tell Americans that it's not happening, because they don't have to go to TV. They can see it in their own cities, And so on immigration, I think what he's doing is politically good and politically popular, and probably needs to be done. It will benefit us in the long run. There'll be some hard visuals. There'll be some hard days. There will be pain and suffering. There's no doubt about it. But we got here because the rule of law was not enforced. So I'm cool with that. On the tariffs, he needs to focus on inflation first, get prices down for Americans, and then let's talk about broader term industrial policy and how we bring back blue-collar jobs that allow a high school graduate to go and make a living wage that can support a family. We all want that. I think Democrats want that, Republicans want that. We all want, not everybody needs to go to college, right? We need people who work with their hands. We need people who know how to build a house, or how to fix a toilet, or to construct a refrigerator. We need people who do those things. And there is something good in making sure that they can make a decent living. I want to be part of that conversation. But I don't think tariffs are how we do it. And I think that consumer prices need to be the focus. And look, this is the test for Trump. Trump's not going to be on the ballot again. But Tharon and I both have a lot of business interest in what happens in Georgia in 2026, right? New governor, new lieutenant governor, new attorney general, new secretary of state. Up and down the ballot, we're going to see massive change here. And we're a swing state. My party is going to face midterm headwinds because the party in the White House always has headwinds, in the midterms. We lost a lot of seats in 2018 during Trump's first midterms. Obama lost a ton of seats, 63 House seats in 2010 in his first midterms. Bill Clinton lost the House for the first time in 40 years in the 94 midterm. So we know what happens. And we face those headwinds. And if we have 3%, 4%, 5% inflation in 2026, my team is going to have a really, really bad year, right? And so I think we are incentivized for our own political good to focus on bringing prices down. Was that a fair answer? I know that was I got a little off on the immigration thing, but I want to point out I'm with him on some stuff. Yeah. I think, even stuff is tough. That stuff's tough. But on the economy, I would do some stuff a little different.
Yeah, his ratings are showing that as well.
Well, speaking of ratings, real quick. No, real quick. I'm going to be real quick. Donald Trump, right now, approval rating in this country is at 47. And this time, when he was elected in 16, he was coming to 17, he was at 40%. It is the second lowest and lowest approval rating that any president has ever had this time in their presidency. I want to repeat that to you all. Yeah. Right now, as we sit here, Donald Trump's approval rating is the least in any president. Guess who was the highest person in his first year in office? Obama. Yeah. But they don't want you to know that, right? That this black man was killing it, right, and doing well. And so the other thing that Brian won't tell you is that they disapprove of Elon Musk being at the helm and running this government, who has this is all fine. And then the other thing they don't like is, while they do think he is dealing with immigration, inflation, you all. What did President Trump tell us? He would deal with the issue of inflation on day one.
Day one.
Last time I checked, y'all, eggs still high, bacon high, gas still high, right? So where's this grandiose plan that this man tricked half of America, not all of America, 75 million people? and that's what I respect about Brian is that, and even the tariffs, he don't blink twice. He put them out there. Oh, I'm gonna, put this tariff. And then when Canada said, well, we're gonna take all these American-made liquor brands off our shelf, then he blinked for the second time. I mean, this gentleman has no strategy to deal with the most important issue, I believe, right now, is dealing with these tariffs and this economy. And I just don't think that it's going to get better. And Democrats, we've got to figure out a way to start making it plain, like I just did, that this is what's going on. This man ran for the job, he won. Now we got to hold him accountable.
Yeah. I will say on the energy price, somebody mentioned gas, absolutely. My team does have the better plan for lowering energy prices. We're going to do an all of the above energy approach. So you're not, you're going to see the Democrats being much more hemmed in there because of the parts of the parties that are, want demands on climate change. The Republicans are like, produce energy, lower prices for Americans. And that I do have faith that we're going to see that begin to play out and be an anti-inflationary force. We will see lower energy prices. I don't know about y'all, like January, February here, I don't know if y'all pay your own energy and gas bills on college campuses, but it was like 15 degrees outside, and boy, my gas bill came through, and it's like 2 car payments, right? I mean, and so I know Americans are getting squeezed on us. We got to do something.
You mentioned Kamala Harris. Yes, she lost the race, but those who supported her were black females. And you in the room, if you don't know you hold power in these elections. So it's good to know that you guys are so, in tune to what's going on in the nation.
So I had to tell Brian to snap. So the snap is like it's applause. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Let's hear the snaps. Let's hear the snaps. There you go.
Yeah. So when you hear black women snapping,
I mean, they like it?
It means they like it. Okay. If they're snapping, looking at you, great, you may want to get out of there.
No matter how weary you are, forge ahead and go to the polls. Olivia.
But real quick, I do want to say, Tharon mentioned the approval rating. He's absolutely right. And look, I'm watching that very closely. I spoke to a Republican Party group today. I care about what happens in Georgia. And if Trump stays in the high 40s, we're going to be okay. Republicans are going to win next year. If he's in the low 40s, high 30s, Republicans are going to lose in Georgia next year. So it used to be that all politics is local, and today all politics is national. And so if you're running for coroner or dog catcher, you've got to go and tell everybody where you stand on Donald Trump, pro or against, right? And that wasn't always the case. But Tharon thinks I go too far with this, but I do believe that Donald Trump is the sun around which American politics. No, hear me out. The sun around which American.
You say he's the sun around an orbit or something?
Around which American politics orbits. Okay. Because what he says, Republicans.
To make this comeback the way he did is just unbelievable.
He is the sun around which American politics orbits. And here's why I say that. Because what he says, Republicans get behind, right? I mean, it can be a complete 180 of what Republicans were for 15 years ago. But like he leads the party and the base follows him. And for the last 10 years, Democrats' identity has been in opposing him. Like, it is a very diverse coalition as far as ideology goes on the Democrat side, much more homogenous on the Republican side. But the glue that holds Democrats together is opposition to Donald Trump. So that's why I say it. Like, he is the center of gravity, and you can moan about it, but he is. I mean, it plays out every day.
What would this world be like if Obama was a convicted felon?
Yeah, I think I got to respond to this, and I know we're taping, so I hope I don't get in trouble. I think what really happened in 2024, you all, and I'm just going to say it. I think enough, more than expected, white people said, you know what? We voted him in 2016 because we thought that he was different than Obama, right? We got to remember what happened in 2016. We had just got through 8 years of a black president who only thing they can criticize him on, you all, seriously, no affairs, a tan suit.
Yeah.
He was strong on the borders. Some of our best economic years. With me and my good friend Killer Mike, we debate this. Black people were working. So I think that the country had saw a black man at the leader of this party. They said, you know what? Okay, we're willing to go against this qualified white woman because of how she handled her husband's affairs, and we just hate her. Remember all the emails and all that? Mm-hmm. That's what they ran on. Versus in 24, they said we didn't want her because we wanted to lock her up because of emails, but they went and voted for a person who literally has been convicted of a crime, 34 counts, and has had more dealings with women and what he said about women than anybody. So I think that white Americans say, you know what? All right, we gave Biden 4 years. And we don't feel like we got enough from it, right? Because he was the answer. He was the white man that could go into the White House and get everything back stabilized. And black women, we pushed him out there because we just wanted Trump to go. Like, we was like anybody but Trump, we wanted him to leave. And what they did strategically, which is why I can't let Brian sit here and say that everything revolves around Trump. They convinced enough black people, you all, and Hispanics to either stay at home or vote for the other side. They did. That's just the truth. Numbers don't lie. Black women, y'all showed out, right? And that's why my good friend, Senator Ossoff, when he started talking about we need to remove a black woman from the position as chair, it was just too soon. I didn't talk to no black women for 72 hours about the election outcome. Seriously. I didn't have my first conversation with my mama until Sunday after the election. I just couldn't because I knew that she was grieving. She was healing. She's like, oh my God, why are we not good enough? So what we can't say, guys, is that it revolves around Trump. What we got to do as Democrats is Trump. He's there, y'all. Nothing we can do about it. He can do almost anything, and his supporters, based on what we heard, will still think he's this sun of the orbit or whatever. What we got to do is that we got to point out what I'm trying to do tonight is that we can do better. These are the numbers. This is where he stands, and then someone is going to emerge. And I truly believe it's going to be a woman that's going to emerge and be the face of the opposition. You see Jasmine Crockett, she's doing it. And all they can complain about, let's go again, Brian. I can't wait for a snap one. She's doing it. And then they want to talk about, she's too radical. And you hear Republicans say, hey, you want to go get on TikTok, you want to go viral. Ayanna Pressley, right? Y'all saw her just trying to basically read something in the record. And this white Republican male literally tried to silence her. And so, but listen what Brian is telling you, and I've been doing it. It can't just be about Trump in 3 years, y'all, because he's going to be bad. It's going to be, this is what we were promised, and this is what we were given. This is what you told us you were going to do. This is what you haven't done. And then we also got to hold these candidates who emerge. If you are not a moderate Democrat, particularly in Georgia, then I don't really think you need to be our nominee, because if you too far left and you can't go to the middle and expand the electorate, then let's not nominate that person. I'm being honest with you all. We nominate, sometimes the Democrats, we nominate bad people. And you can't scare the hell out of these white folks. Even me talking like this right now, guess what? It's going to scare the hell out of some of my supporters, because they listen to me every week, and I try to be sensible and I try to be more, moderate. But the truth is that I can't come to Spelman and not tell you all the real, is that I think that most people ignored the behavior of this president. They were desensitized to it, and they made a level of normalcy out of it. They thought that it's not normal to do things, but that's just kind of where we are as a country right now with politics. And I do believe that we're going to get back to some normalcy in this country.
One thing I do want to say, because just sort of being the Republican explainer here, because you mentioned the 34 felony counts. Here's how Republicans and a lot of independents see that. That was a misdemeanor charge made into a felony. And Alvin Bragg made Donald Trump into a martyr. Coming out of the 2020 election, a lot of Republicans were ready to move on. You had the Trump base, about 30% of the party, that was always Trump, no matter what, always Trump. Mm-hmm. Then there was an equally big chunk of people who were like, love him, really like his policies, but it's time to give somebody else a chance. It's time to move on. And then you had some who just didn't like Trump on the other end. But those people now have left the party. Mm-hmm. So you had a big block of the Republicans who were ready to go on to somebody new. When Alvin Bragg indicted him on financial disclosure paperwork errors with 34 felony counts, which had no precedent. There was no precedent for anyone charged with those crimes of getting a felony. When Alvin Bragg campaigned on prosecuting Trump, he campaigned on promising to convict Donald Trump. The rest of the country saw it, and it made him a martyr.
But we can't
and
forget about the
and
bribes.
And the election was over.
What about
It
the
was
stripper
over.
and Stormy Daniels? That was part of it too. He literally
None of that's
paid
a
her
crime.
to go. Huh?
None of that's a crime. It might be unseemly. It's not a crime. There were many Democrats who spoke out and said, this is overreach, these are misdemeanors, and there's going to be a backlash to this. I think they're misdemeanors, yes. Look, I think that there were other cases that were much stronger than Alvin Bragg's case. The federal stuff made a lot more sense to me. I could see where they're going. And you can have an argument about whether it was, political prosecution or not. That's the legitimate debate. Alvin Bragg's prosecution was not legitimate. It made him a martyr, and it was a huge mistake. It made him undefeatable in a Republican primary.
What is the most prominent picture in the White House right now that sits over the shoulder of Donald Trump when he's meeting with world leaders? No, it's his Fulton County mugshot. Next time y'all look at the clips of Donald Trump, he has his mugshot from Fulton County over his shoulder, kind of, well, if you're there. And why is he doing that? To your question, right? He's got to keep most of his Republicans, not all, reminding them that this is what they tried to do to me. This is what they made me do. They made me come to Fulton County, drive down Lee Halliwell, and come and basically take a mugshot. And it excited a faction of the people, and they quietly did it. They weren't telling you we hate them. We weren't telling you we're going to vote. Maybe all those polls, they were lying to the pollsters, right? But the fact that he uses art to activate his base and put it in the White House, he has spent more money on. This is all true. I'm not lying. Y'all fact check me.
Yeah, that's
Donald Trump has spent more money redesigning the White House than any other American president. He has spent more money on artwork. This is where some of our money is going, right? Yeah. But he's doing this because it's the imagery that appeals to his coalition of voters.
Yeah, we all know he's a narcissist.
The mugshot was a huge mistake.
The
mugshot was a huge mistake on Fulton County's part. Other jurisdictions, New York did not do that. It was a mistake to do it. And I said that in real time. When that happened, I was like, this is a mistake.
My good friend, Patrick Labatt, followed the law.
Yeah.
And he did, only difference he made, and I told him this privately, so I'll say this publicly, he followed the law. He did exactly what the state law required. His mistake was he went out ahead of time and said he was not going to make him do the mugshot, then he had to reverse it. But had he not said he wasn't going to do it, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, we're winding down here. We're losing a few of our students. I'm sure they've got to go study. So
Yeah.
we're going to get one or two. Are you Olivia? Okay, Olivia and Kennedy. Kennedy Blue, where are you? Stand up quickly. We're going to get both of you in, and we're going to slowly have to wrap up. And we're going to get this young lady whose arms has been up for a long, long time as well. Okay, so go ahead.
Just saying good evening and thank you all again for being here. My name is Olivia Bernard. I'm a first-year political science major. My question is for you, Mr. Robinson. You mentioned that your problem with liberal ideology in relation to DEI is that liberals are trying to group by race and that we are defined by more than just our race. My question is, how do you reconcile that with systemic disparities and racial biases that disproportionately affect certain racial and identity groups?
No, I think that's fair. And look, this is where I believe that education is key. And look, we can have different viewpoints about how we deal with those inequalities. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I believe in excellence. And I believe that America has gotten better over time. And I think that we do have some historical legacies that are still at issue today. And it's going to take a long time to get better. But when you look at Atlanta particularly, and you see this is the richest black majority places in the entire world here. It's a model of what can happen. And that doesn't mean we don't have poverty. It doesn't mean we don't have inequality. We certainly do.
Yeah.
But I do believe that one of the greatest civil rights problems today is the education system that traps many minority students or poor students of any race in schools that are failing. And one thing I'm passionate about, and you can disagree with my policy conclusion on this, right? That's fine. That's what debate is about. But I want those parents to have options to go somewhere else. I want those parents who care about their kids getting ahead, making sure that they can learn, making sure that they're challenged, making sure they're ready for the global economy and all of the competition that comes with it. I want them to have other options. And I'd love to break out of this dynamic that we're in now.
Kennedy?
Hi, I'm Kennedy Blue Washington. I'm a sociology major, English minor on the pre-law track from Richmond, Virginia, and I'm a second-year student. My question is kind of surrounded around public distrust. I'm a part of the Georgia Women's Policy Institute as well as Spelman on the Hill, that y'all lovely ladies run. And I'm at the Capitol pretty much once a week, the Georgia Capitol once a week, and I'm interacting with legislators all the time. And I think one of the biggest issues that I've come across being a black woman and being at the Georgia Capitol, especially being from Virginia, which is a blue state has been for a while.
In presidential elections, anyway.
Yeah. But I think one of the biggest things I've come into is holding my tongue and being respectful, but also like listening and trying to really understand like the mindset of a Republican man or woman. No shade. But I guess so my question is, I think there's just like an increase in public distrust and arguably a lack of intelligence in the current presidential administration. And I think that's one of the things that's really hard to like come into terms with when it comes to actually watching politics and being aware of what's going on in the nation. So I guess my question is it's kind of more so for you, Mr. Johnson, is like kind of just as a black person, a lot of times it's the first thing you see. Like I think in my opinion, before I'm a woman, I'm black at the end of the day. So I think my question is just kind of how to navigate that in a way that's respectful, and you're doing it right now, but just kind of how do you like, hold your tongue by still like sharing your point, respectfully, I guess.
Well, I didn't do a good enough job holding my tongue tonight as I usually do, but I made a choice. To me, it's about credibility. There's no way I can come back to the AUC and not be even more real and more black here. And if someone questions my answers because the group and the atmosphere I'm in, then I can deal with that. But I want to go back to something you said. You have people in this room right now who have lobbied successfully at the Capitol, and as a black woman who has natural hair, who dare have dreadlocks, or some may have braids and whatever. And you have some down there now, and there's not that many. I think I can count on maybe 5 or 6 black lobbyists who are not working for a corporation. So what I mean by that, they're called contract lobbyists. So these are folks who have their own firm or they work for a firm like mine. I'm a black contract lobbyist. And so you're absolutely right. Let me just keep it real with you all because y'all need to hear this. It's going on right here in Georgia. You have a mayor in Jonesboro, Georgia. Right now, look her up. Danya Santar in Jonesboro, Georgia. A black woman who made history by becoming the first mayor. And I'm okay with saying this because B-Rob and I do this. If you give me permission, you got to give me permission to say it publicly. She truly believes that her own council and people in the city are responding to her in the way they're doing it because she's a black woman. And it's very frustrating to me because I don't think that you guys are always accepted the way you should be accepted because of the color of your skin and because you're a woman. So what do? Is that I hire black women. Fatima can tell you, Ruth can tell you. Come on. And I do that because when Paramount shows up at the Capitol, right, Kiyoshi, who Brian will probably start tonight, it depends on her, because I want you guys to be represented. But I would be disingenuous to you if I didn't tell you that the angry black woman reputation that you guys unfairly get because you speak up for yourself is real. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. These white Republican males, some of them can handle it. They can. And the rural ones, they're not used to someone like you. But I think the white Republican males are saying, okay, you know what, in 2025, we got to be real careful because now they're not sparing the rod. I mean, they're going after anybody who pushes back on the Trump thing. So my advice to you is this. Don't stop showing up and talking to everyone at the Capitol, number one. Number two, even though you're going to be faced and you're going to get that double look, right? And then, and God probably shouldn't say this, but they give you that little, we all know that smile, right? Yeah. Brian's doing it right now, like that little smile they do, right?
I'm just nice.
There are good guys out here like Brian who truly spends a lot of time wanting to know what black females think. He does. He got 2 or 3 that he always tries to come back to me and use as a source.
To.
Yeah. But then you have the other ones that truly are instantaneously saying, oh, crap, what is she about to come to me now? Is she about to come talk to me about maternal mortality, which I believe is the biggest civil rights issue in Georgia. Right now, we have more black women dying of postpartum, and our Republican leadership, Speaker Burns, who Brian works for him and gets paid, he's at least said something about it, right? He's at least said it's a problem. Now, what he does about it, and if we let them out of the session and don't hold them accountable, then shame on us. So I just think that honestly, look, you have like every single major county right now, except Fulton County, is ran in our core area is ran by a woman. And you got some of our biggest counties, and I don't want to name them all because I'm going to forget some, but some of the biggest ones in the Metro East are being run by women. So this whole notion that black women can't get elected, that the numbers don't support that. But it's when you get elected and in how the media and how your colleagues treat you. And y'all know this, I'm just going to keep it real with you. Some of your biggest, and Lisa knows this, some of your biggest haters, I had to get on Kamala, her own soror. A couple times on the podcast, she was like, well, I don't know. I'm like, Lisa, come on, this is your AKA soror, right? But some of your biggest critics are going to be women.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? So you gotta fight the white man and the Republicans, right, to make you feel good. But then at the same time, you guys got to continue to support each other. And just know it just comes with territory. I'm bald head with a goatee. If my goatee gets a little too thick, I do think about that like, man, I'm looking a little too intimidating on television. But I find moments like I did last week. Brian saw it. Phil Kent, he just caught me on the wrong day. He tried to cut me off, and he got that smoke. So I came back last week, and I dumbed it down a little bit. But I acknowledged it, right? Because I wanted people to know, like, yeah, I did it intentionally because he was trying to silence me. So you just got to pick and choose your battles, but I would be disingenuous if I didn't tell you all, yeah, they think it. They see you all. They see your hair. They see your glasses. They see the color of your hair. They see what you're wearing. They see your shoes, how you walk up to them. They automatically profile you. But it's what comes out of your mouth and the essence you exude and your follow-up. And if you ask them an intelligent question, I've seen more Republicans want to talk to black females because they want to know. Like Brian is, this is a y'all, you all are a focus group for Brian tonight, seriously. And he's gonna leave here and pick and choose what he wants to kind of share. But if they're gonna utilize you as a focus group, then give them something to focus on and hold their asses accountable.
Well, Donald Trump normally says you're fired. Tharon just told you you're hired, so hold him accountable. Hold him accountable. Yeah, this is like, we're a little over our time here, and they're gonna. I was gonna say they're gonna stay around.
Thank you so much for taking my question. Amani Moore, and I class of 2007. My question is, and you guys have kind of touched on this as we've been talking, but how do you find the common ground and shift the mindset so that the electorate expands? Because we know that black women have the vote, we vote, and we have that power, but it hasn't tipped the scales yet. So specifically around education, if you would, in Georgia's climate, where we can't even say diversity in the classroom, like how do you tip those scales?
I'll be real quick. I think that the fact that, and I haven't gotten to this yet, but I have to say this, we should be outraged about what's happening on the federal level right now. The cuts to the Department of Education, which, by the way, has the least amount of representation than any other cabinet major agency. Like the fact that these people are being laid off with no merit-based strategy, no metrics in place, and it's going to negatively impact the public school systems that Brian is talking about. Two, as far as like how do you capitalize on a black woman vote and to tip the scale in Georgia, let's bring home to Georgia. I honestly think that you do everything. Y'all show up, we appreciate it. We got to expand the electorate, right? And so we got to go find some new voters. And one thing that Brian said too, believe it or not, Republicans lost voters because of Trump. We lost voters back in 2002 with Roy Barnes because he changed the flag, he dealt with the Northern Arc, and he laid off teachers. Those white Democrats have been either not voting or not voting for us for 20 years. So what issues can we do to bring them back? And then as far as public schools, let me say this. My child goes to a private school only because of two reasons. My wife went to private school her whole life, right? This is a big debate in our high school. I wanted my son to go to public school. So I conceded, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to, right, exactly. And the second reason is because we have the means to send him. But not everyone has the means. So when Brian talks about people having to live in the zip codes, those folks don't have a choice. You literally, in this day and age, where income inequality is number one in Atlanta, you have to stay where you can afford. And then we need to make sure that school is the best it can be. So that's what I think. I said I was going to be quick, but thank you for your question.
Well, you mentioned common ground. And look, do you think I didn't come through this door tonight thinking y'all aren't going to like what I had to say? I knew that just demographically, you're most likely not Republicans. When I talked about y'all becoming Republican staffers, I basically got booed.
It wasn't that
right? So I wasn't wrong, all right? But I'm here, and I'm here because it's important. I'm here because your voice is important, and particularly here in my state. And I want to have that conversation. I do feel to some degree, I'm not here to try to convince you to see the world the way Republicans do or the way that I do. What I would like to do is for you to see the way, to understand how Republicans see the world. You know, when Tharon talks about the First Amendment right, what conservatives think about is social media censoring conservative voices. What conservatives think about is that when people get canceled, it's people on our side. People who are destroyed, it's people on our side. And you see that in the elite institutions of America, conservatives voices are silenced, and progressive voices have been lifted up for a very long time. And so you're seeing some backlash to that. I hope that I shed some light onto how conservatives see this. And look, I think we have a lot of common ground. I think if you go to the General Assembly, where Tharon works, he always talks about being a bipartisan firm. He goes every day and talks to Republicans about, working together to pass legislation. The budget in the state capitol is passed in a bipartisan manner almost unanimously every year. The people who vote no are on the extremes of both parties. Some Republicans vote no. So there's a lot of common ground here. You get to D.C. and that's just look, Look, if those people ever talked to each other, and if it wasn't all about gamesmanship and the next political cycle, they would agree on a lot of stuff, right? They would agree on a ton. But no one can let anybody else get a win, even if it's a win for the American people. And that's not partisan. You know, we have seen the partisan warfare play out. Democrats are mad about the Supreme Court, right? About how Republicans have stacked the Supreme Court. You know why that happened? Because Democrats ended the filibuster for judicial nominations to get more liberal judges on. And Mitch McConnell got up and said, you will regret this one day, and it may be sooner than you think. And here we are 15 years later with a Republican supermajority on the Supreme Court. It was gamesmanship. And, you know, all of these Democrats attacking Chuck Schumer for voting for the budget and letting that move forward, all of them 2 years ago were saying do away with the filibuster. It's the exact same people, right? And now they're all for the filibuster. So everything's about partisan gamesmanship, but it doesn't mean we don't agree on a lot of stuff. We do. We do. I want every kid in this state to have an excellent access to education. Access. I can't guarantee everybody's going to get a great one, but I want everybody to have a chance because I believe in it. And I think we all agree on that. Yeah, I really do. I think that's something we can all, and Tharon's right. Maternal mortality, I care about that. We see this differently probably, but part of the reason that I want to see some tort reform is that we have parts of the state, many parts that are heavily black, majority black, where you can't get an OBGYN. And if we can lower some of the legal litigation costs for doctors, maybe we can get them to go to some of these areas.
But we can also expand Medicaid.
You could do that too.
And
I've said
that conversation.
And I've said, as far as common ground, I've said for as long as Medicaid expansion is the law of the land, I think we should do it. I've said that publicly for 10 years.
You have. I give credit on that.
And no one on my side like me saying it too much, right? Yeah. But those are all things I think we can agree on. You've seen Republicans talk about maternal mortality over the last few years, in the last few cycles, because it's a big, anything that hits the black community disproportionately hits Georgia disproportionately. And so we all have to care about it.
More importantly, continue to show up like you did tonight. We thank you and continue to ask those all-important questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for having us. We really appreciate it.